Hey, what's up? It's Silas back again with the third book for the year. I'm getting ahead of myself. I finished my third book for the year on the fourth one, but finished the third one for the year. Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. It is a book about sales and how we should approach sales as people. I am not a salesperson per se. However, the book is a book that basically relays the message that no matter what we do for a living, we're always selling. And it's a book that uses some really basic examples to explain the correlation between the everyday layperson and what they do in their respective industries and the importance of selling. It's a pretty good book. It is not just for salespeople, but it is a book that if you are a salesperson, I would recommend that you read it. It's a book that will motivate salespeople to really get out of their own way and to get to work on selling the product and believing in the product that they're selling, no matter what the product is. And so um, I've seen this book for quite some time. I had it on my list. I ordered it. I picked it up and I enjoyed it. I will say it's a very interactive book. Most of the chapters have a Q&A at the end of the chapter. And the questions are not always extremely straightforward. So I found myself having to read chapters more than once, maybe 1.5 to 2 times to make sure I had the right answers for the questions at the end of the chapters. Um, in the beginning of the book, the author, Grant Cardone, establishes a statement that selling is a prerequisite for life, and that in some way or another, we're all earning commission. And so he talks about a few things that we earn commission from, or a few things that we earn that are commission that are not money. One being true love, the second being health, and the third being children and family. And so, in many instances, we sell ourselves to the person that we have an interest in, and that ends up growing into true love. We sell ourselves on being fit and making correct decisions when it comes to fitness and eating. And so, the commission we get from that is health. And then, as I mentioned in the first example with true love, if that love really continues to grow, you end up creating a family. And so we get commissions from the things that we invest in. And as a result, he explains to us in really common terms the fact that all of us are selling. And so that's how the book kind of starts. He also talks about the importance of salespeople. So that's when he gets really specific about people that are actually in the sales space and how if there are no salespeople, most products don't move. And so he breaks down the importance of having salespeople and how if you have a sales job and you focus on being as good as you can be in sales, you'll always have a job. One of the things he talked about, and I have it in my notes, I took a lot of notes on this book, by the way. But he stated that most businesses fail because they can't get the ideas out fast enough and they can't get the products out fast enough. And he makes the case that salespeople help create the vision and also the pipeline of products going from the company out to the people. And so, he makes this real pitch about the importance of sales early on in the book. He goes into great detail about staying motivated, but more importantly, staying trained, and how you cannot properly or appropriately sell a product if you're not trained on what the product features are, and if you're not totally sold out and convicted on the fact that the product that you're selling is the best product. He does a really good job multiple times throughout the book reiterating and reinforcing that sales is not about tricking people. It's also not about overly pressuring people. Now, he does have some tactics that he talks about in the book that will prod at a customer with direct questions. He often refers to in the book to the fact that he loves asking questions so that he can get to know the customer, to get to know what the customer wants. He also pitches some other books and resources that he sells on his website for salespeople to be able to deal with objections and to deal with people that may have reasons why they don't want to buy a product. Without saying it in so many words, he's saying that if a person walks through your showroom doors, that they're essentially there to buy something. And if they don't buy something, it's because you didn't do your job. Some of the things that he states in this book are really about accountability at a 100% level for the salesperson. He really believes that if a person doesn't make a sale, it's totally because of them. But the unspoken statement is that if a person walks through those doors, they came in with interest, and it's up to you to finalize that interest. Speaking of that, he also talked a lot about going from selling to actually closing and the importance of getting to the point of asking a person to sign on the dotted line. And he talks about people beating around the bush and giving these 25-minute, 30-minute presentations, and they're too afraid to ask if it's time to close the deal. So there are certain points in the book where it gets really salesy, and there are other points where if you're not a salesperson, you can also relate. The biggest thing that stood out for me in this book, the biggest thing, he talks toward the end of the book about rejection and how that at its core is one of the main reasons why people don't want to sell themselves or the products that they have to offer. And he makes a really key statement. The statement that he makes is that people are not rejecting you. They're saying no to the offer you're presenting. People are not rejecting you. They are saying no to the current offering that you're putting on the table. And when I read that, it was really a liberating statement because we've all faced the fear of rejection either straightforward or we try to sidestep it. And when we are faced with rejection, we take it personally. And if we had a different offer to put in front of the same person, we could get a different outcome. And that could go from you approaching a person because you have an intimate interest in them. It could be you asking them to borrow something from them. It could be you asking them to buy something from you. It could be you asking them for a big, small, or medium favor. Whatever the case is, when people say no, it's because they are considering the offer that's on the table. And it's not a personal rejection of you. We've seen those videos on Instagram where a guy says what's up to a girl. It's a skit or, some sort of hidden camera setup. And the girl's not interested, and then he walks over to a luxury car. And all of a sudden, she does a beeline to the car. She turns around, does a 180, and all of a sudden now she has an interest in that person. And we often criticize that woman in those examples, those women in those examples, for having a change of heart. But that is essentially what Grant is saying in the book with the statement about rejection. The current offer that you put on the table is not pleasing to the person that you're offering it to. But when you bring something to the table that is pleasant and something that they want to be able to take advantage of, then they'll accept that second offer or the third offer. And so it's not about being right or not being rejected. It's about always checking the offering that we have. And so in some instances, we want to be reasonable. We don't want to necessarily go, beyond the reasonable sort of ways of making the sale. We don't want to necessarily study the product so that we know it in and out, so that any question a person asks, we'll have an answer to it. Sometimes we don't want to go that far into studying a product. We don't want to do the research. We don't want to do the trainings every day that is highly recommended in this book. He talks a bit about, if you are a salesperson, that you should be training every day. You should be learning the product every day. You should be writing down the no's and the reason why people say no to you, and then figuring out from there what will your response be when that similar no happens in a future situation. And so again, for me, that biggest takeaway was that rejection and no are two different things. People are saying no because they just don't like the offer that you're putting in front of them. He also talks about price and how most salespeople believe that the number one reason why they lose a sale is because of price, and that's not the case. He gives some really vivid examples of how people will pay more for service. And he says service is the biggest difference between a person paying a low price and a high price. You go to a Holiday Inn, you go to a Ritz-Carlton, they both have beds, they both have towels, they both have soap, they both have running water. But the difference between a Holiday Inn and the Ritz-Carlton most of the time is the service you get at the Ritz-Carlton. And so if you provide someone with a higher level of service on top of the product, then they're more likely to pay more, and they're not going to have a problem paying more. Also, people are attached to symbolism as well. So people will pay more for a luxury car that has 4 wheels, a gas pedal, steering wheel, 4 doors. They'll pay for that same ability to be able to drive at a much higher level, at an exponentially higher level, if there's a story that's being attached to this luxury car in comparison to a car that may not be deemed a luxury car. Same thing for watches, same thing for clothing items. The reality is the story that you attach to a product and the service you provide to a customer makes a difference. So this book is really a book that is really good for salespeople. But if you are having some issues with your own confidence, if you're having some issues with your own self-value, I think this is a book that you should pick up or you should read. And there's some techniques in the book that you can take away for your own benefit. So, Sell or Be Sold by Grant Cardone. You're gonna be hard pressed for me to say a book is a bad book. It's never a bad use of your time or a waste of your time to pick up a book. And again, I think this book is worth picking up. If you're a salesperson, definitely get into it. If you're looking to boost your confidence and your self-value, get into it as well. Please like and subscribe this YouTube channel. I do these book reviews. As soon as I finish books, I'm on book 3, or finished book 3 for 2023, on book 4 now. And I hope you guys enjoy the journey.